I was asked this question the other day. What is China doing to solve its demographic crisis? As Western media is saying, China's population is collapsing, so is China doing something to make its population rise again? I never got any answer from anyone about this and hope you can answer it. So here goes, wherever you are. Welcome to another of my takes, and this one really is on China. This is a great question. Many people in the West believe that China is not transparent. It never tells the world or even Chinese people what's going on. But that's absolutely not true. There's a website called the State Council Information Office. I've linked it. And although the search engine isn't great, it's actually really bad, the information is all there. Current information can be found on the front page. To answer this question, I simply needed to open this web page, and Western media either chooses not to believe this or completely ignores the fact that it exists. Now, here's what I say. Look back at the archives. See what they've said they will do. Go back 19 or 20 years, even more. Then start looking at what they've actually achieved. You'll find remarkable consistency. So to answer the first question, China's population is not collapsing at all. It's a strong, robust population, but it is shrinking as well as aging. However, this is no worse than any other country in the world. The difference is, with a large population, there's a larger number of people entering retirement age, and because of the previous family planning policy, which the West calls the one-child policy, there will be less working age people than there should be to support the aging population. Now, for the record, several countries, including the USA, where the media there are screaming about China's aging population, have experienced a massive increase in their own aged people. In fact, the US Census records the fastest growth of aged people since the 1880s. And Japan, where it's recorded that they have the largest aging population in the world. So several countries have a similar, if not bigger, problem. But it's what's being done about it that's the issue. China is not in danger of collapse as a result of this because they've set in place policies to help cope with it. The third plenary session just a couple of months ago decided that between now and 2030, they will increase the working age in line with most of the Western world. In fact, Western media is reporting that it will go to 65 for men. It's also possible it will go to 65 for women too, but that's speculation by Western media, as that information hasn't been announced until the NPC meet and decide it. Currently, the retirement age is 55 for women and 60 for men. But that was set when the country had a life expectancy of only 44 years, so it's definitely due for a change. I suspect it will not be as high, but let's wait and see. I personally think 62, maybe 63, with an option to opt out early for retirement for blue-collar workers in order to care for grandchildren, which has traditionally been how it's done in China. Now, I could be wrong too, but we won't know until the announcements are made, and they won't be made until the NPC decides on it. Now, people can criticize me if I'm wrong, because I'm only guessing. Female blue-collar workers right now can retire at 50, but take a walk around any factory and you'll see them working longer than that. It's voluntary. And when I've spoken to them, they've always said they prefer to work. They're happier doing it. There's already criticism in Western media about youth unemployment. It has stabilized, and most of the criticism was about 15 months ago when the number hit 20%. But that was a normal spike caused by graduation season. By September, it reverts to a much lower, but is still concerning 12% for youth and 5% overall. Now, 5% unemployment is perfectly normal, so we needn't worry too much about that. But the government would like to and are taking it down, and in keeping with their normal transparency, the State Council Information Office gave information on this on the 15th of August this year, less than a month ago. Automation and robotics are increasing. Education has changed, and now more than 60% of all young people in China get tertiary education of some sort. The subjects they study have changed. They aren't learning how to sew t-shirts anymore. They're learning how to CNC machine precision parts. They're creating AI platforms. They're building robots and automation. And they're learning how to care for elders. So there have been many changes in the way China handles its changing demographic. All of it is well planned, well executed, and all of it is poorly reported by Western media. Yes, there are concerns. Yes, the government have taken steps to alleviate these concerns. Yes, there are challenges. But no, there is not a collapse looming. Many countries, as I've demonstrated, the USA is one of them, are actually in a worse position than China. But in order to attempt to hide that information from us, our Anglo-Saxon media will constantly point at China and tell us how bad it is without telling us that it's even worse outside the front door. China is addressing the issues while countries like the USA are either ignoring it or, if they are considering it at all, simply blaming China for it, like this NPR report claiming China stole 1.5 million jobs. And again, that blame is ill-placed. China didn't steal their jobs. China didn't steal their technology. China isn't surrounding them with military bases, and China isn't threatening their sea lanes and airspace with embedded media taking photos and making videos of their defensive capabilities. China isn't restricting imports from them, and it isn't restricting sales to them. In fact, China is just getting on with business as usual, despite all these challenges that are being thrown at them by Westerners and Americans in particular. And finally, when you read that China's exports are slumping, as you no doubt will, remember this. China's imports and exports surged in the first half of this year, and both of these were on top of record imports and exports of last year. China's just hosted 53 African countries in a huge conference and has effectively opened free trade agreements with 33 of the poorest countries on earth. The least developed countries can now trade tariff-free with China, as of yesterday. China's exports to the EU and their exports to the USA might be down, and this is reported as a slump. Yet China is forecast to grow by 5% this year. The UK will grow at 1%, USA under 3%. China's exports are now going to less developed countries, not to the developed world, where those countries want to restrict China. It's the kind of slump that Western economists keep predicting and keep getting it wrong. So when a country is growing at 5%, and when that 5% represents the greatest contribution to global growth and actually doubles the US contribution, when that country has an increasing life expectancy, when it also has the world's highest number of science and technical publications, and the largest number of patents issued, and the largest number of university graduates coming from some of the best universities in the world, and it has the largest middle class, yet is one of the few countries in the world that has no absolute poverty. You can hardly look at that and call that a collapsing society. Unless, of course, you measure collapse in a very different way to me. Thanks once again for watching my take on China. I do hope I'm still around and this society hasn't collapsed by this time next year. In the meantime, I will see you next time. Please don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Check that subscribe button. See you again. Bye for now.